we should be live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another W&W Pokemon Draft League video. This is our week in review for Season 7, Week 1. I am your league commissioner and coach of the Toronto Trick Roomers, Chris Moriarty Marks, and I'm joined here, as I usually am, by the coaches of Nashville and West Texas. Gentlemen, why don't y'all say hi?
Hey guys, it's me, Ali Hipsterbrownkid Sheikh, coach of the Nashville Ninetales.
What's up, everybody? Caleb, the Seagull Gulley, head coach of the West Texas Wingulls. Excited to dive in this after Week 1 action.
Yep, a lot of things happened in Week 1, but the first thing that happened, starting all the way back at the end of the draft, was we had some free agency moves. Ali, why don't you take us into those first?
Yeah, so we got Jersey City making their usual right after the draft free agency moves, swapping out two of their tier 3 pieces, the dynamic duo of the Acelgor Palisand, swapping those out for the Riolu and the Golurk, who we did get to see this week. And we had the West Texas Wingulls swapping out their G-Max Charizard for the big G-Max Snorlax, who we also got to see in their first game, who was immediately swapped back.
Yeah, and so swapping this Charizard for the Snorlax that they obtained through a trade, taking us to the other side of this graphic. Our first trade happened immediately after the draft, and the West Texas Wingulls sent that G-Max Venusaur to the Toronto Trick Roomers in exchange for the G-Max Charizard, plus the first available Season 8 draft pick from the Toronto Trick Roomers, who weren't done there. They also made a trade with Charlotte, who sent over the Dragapult in exchange for the second and third available Season 8 draft picks. Now, since Charlotte did not want the Garchomp that Toronto was dropping to slot in the Dragapult, they instead picked up the Goodra from Tier 1 to fill the void the Dragapult was leaving. But free agency wasn't the only thing that some of us were busy doing before the first week of games played out. We also made some predictions.
Yes, sir, we did. We did have some predictions. Week 1, we called the Nashville Ninetales Jersey City game. That finished up as a 2-1 win in favor of Nashville. All three of us picking up our first ever prediction call there. The next game of the season, Toronto Trick Roomers playing the West Texas Wingulls, 2-1 in favor of Toronto in that very close series. Chris coming ahead with the only prediction points there. The third game, the Memphis Machamps picking up the win, 2-1 over the Charlotte Charizards. All three of us, unfortunately, calling the sweep for the Charizards, and all three of us horribly wrong there. And then the final matchup, which was a forfeit, 2-0 in favor of Chapel Hill. All three of us picking Chapel Hill to win that. So overall, decent predictions, I feel like.
Yep. Both of you guys going 50-50, me hitting that 75% ratio. What can I say? Thank you in advance for the crown. But the predictions are nice, but let's take a look at how the games actually played out, starting with this Jersey City-Nashville game. We see that the Jersey City Jirachis did indeed fall 1-2 against the Nashville Ninetales. Game 1, the Rillaboom came out, Dynamaxed, brought the tempo back, and sealed up the game for Jersey City, but Nashville took a deep breath, brought it back in Game 2 with Volcarona sealing it up against that Rillaboom, and then in Game 3 with Primarina and the Regigigas duo able to just kind of stay safe, deal the damage, and pick up the win for Nashville. Statistics-wise, we see that this Rillaboom showed up all 3 games, Dynamaxed all 3 games, picked up 4 KOs and 2 feints, got a little bit of assistance from the Magmortar, who picked up 1 KO along with its 2 feints, and the Golurk, who helped seal Game 1, picking up 1 KO with just the 1 feint. But looking at the Nashville side, we see that Primarina's got the gold star, franchise Pokemon picking up the MVP for the series with 1 Dynamax, 3 KOs, 2 feints, and an undefeated 2-0 game score. Volcarona coming in close for that MVP title with 1 Dynamax, a KD of 3, and showing up all 3 games means it's got that win-loss record of 2-1. The Regigigas may have blundered a bit in Game 1, but in Game 3 it was huge, picking up 1 Dynamax with a KD of 2 overall and a win-loss record of 1-1. And the Haxorus, of course, showing up, getting that KD of 2, also going 1-1 on the day.
Yeah, so moving into our next series of the week, we had the West Texas Wingulls versus the Toronto Trick Roomers. Toronto did pick up this series 2-1 off the back of a very, very big Venusaur. So we had our first game showing off that Snorlax from the West Texas Wingulls with the Follow Me Belly Drum strat everyone knows about, but we had our friendly little Vulpix take it down to very low, very red HP bar with a big foul play. Snorlax, no, we got Vulpix at the end coming out against that Tapu Fini, where Tapu Fini got locked into a suboptimal Moonblast into the Vulpix. But the Vulpix did manage to seal off that game, finishing off the Tapu Fini with a big foul play. And in the next game, we had a West Texas Wingull win coming off from the big Helping Hand Ice Beam coming out of the Tapu Fini against that Venusaur to seal up that game. And game 3 came down to a Venusaur Sleep Powder into the Togetic, leaving the Tapu Fini unprotected and unable to seal off that series. And taking a look at stats here, we had a massive 6 KOs and 2 feints and 2 maxes for that Tapu Fini. And we had a rather unfortunate 0 KOs and 1 feint coming from the Snorlax. And a surprising 4 KOs to 3 feints coming out of that lower tier Heliolisk. And then looking at the Toronto side, we had the big MVP, the 1 max and a KD of 5 coming from that Venusaur, a win-loss of 1-1. We had 2 maxes, 3 KOs, and 3 feints for the Galarian Moltres. And our Vulpix with its 1 foul play KO, 1 feint, and a 1-1 win-loss. And our high damage support, air quotes, Salazzle with 1 KO, 3 feints, and a 2-1 win-loss. And our undefeated Comfy with 1 KO, 1 feint, and the 1 win to no losses.
And our third matchup of week 1 was the Charlotte Charizards playing the Memphis Machamps. A very, very high damage volatile series going in favor of Memphis 2-1. Game 1 coming down to Regidrago looking like it was set up, but getting shut down by the Dynamax, Gudra, and Arctozolt coming in on turn 2 and sweeping from that point forward. Charlotte turning it around in game 2 to pick up the win with the Gudra Max and shutting down everything else with the RNG happening, not needed for Charlotte to stop the Lucario Max from doing anything. And in game 3, no Dynamax is needed from the Memphis Machamps side as Regidrago with the Gotham Cell support able to get up and going, picking up a ton of KOs and locking up the series for Memphis for their first win of the season. Looking at a few stats here, Gudra with all 3 maxes for the Charlotte Charizards with 5 KOs, 2 feints. Very big stat line for Gudra, who was accompanied by the Cinderace, the Luxray, and the Pelipper. Very solid 4 each game for Charlotte. From the Memphis Machamp side, not mentioned is the Gothitelle. Very big support here. The Lucario with a max in game 2 with 1 KO, 1 feint. The carry in game 1, the Arctozolt with 1 max, 2 KOs, no feints. Showed up for game 1, was in the back in game 3 in case Reggie Drago was unable to clear house and finish out the series. And then the MVP of this series, the Reggie Drago. No maxes, didn't need them for that Dragon Energy spread damage with 5 KOs, 1 feint. Absolute power player from the legendary tier for Memphis to pick up their first win of the season.
Yep, and unfortunately, our last game of the week had to be a forfeit from the Zambia due to some unfortunate and unforeseen circumstances, which means that Chapel Hill is credited with a 2-0 win and a differential of +4 to Chapel Hill, -4 to Zambia. So while we don't have any pictures to show you or any fun stats from that game, we do have some fun overall stats from the week in our current standings and the current overall table. We see that due to everything being cross-divisional play this week, everyone was just playing for a single point. So we have 4 people tied for first place with 1 point each and 4 tied for the bottom 4 slots. But we see that Chapel Hill leads the way with a differential 4 from that forfeit, followed by Memphis with the +3. Nashville comes in third with that +2, and Toronto Hill rounding it out in 4th place at a +1. And the bottom half of the table starts with the West Texas Wingulls at -1, followed by Jersey City at -2. 7th is Charlotte at -3, and Zambia is unfortunately in 8th at -4 due to that forfeit.
The Hoenn division coming out swinging week 1 with a 3-1 record. Very dominant play. Something that's going to be really fun going into week 2 is all the chaos that's going to happen with the table. What you see here is absolutely not how it's going to end up after week 2. A lot of standing changes, especially considering the OG for the league smack dab in the middle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we see our 1 win from the Center Division, me from the Nashville Ninetales, taking the top a whole season later, despite not being in the Center Division last season, but remaining undefeated cross-divisionally there and hoping to keep that spot right at the top.
Gonna carry our division.
Yeah, I'll help shut that down. But we've seen everything from week 1. You guys know what's coming next. It's week 2, and we've got some predictions to make, starting with you, Mr. Ali. We've got our first game, the Zambia Zebstrikas versus the Memphis Machamps, and this is the first time we've actually got a difference in opinion, but both of you guys are in agreement 2-1, so Ali, why don't you start off the justifications for that?
Yeah, so this match kind of comes down to a difference in draft, which I know we talked about last week, which the Machamps managed to prove us wrong. But I do think the top of the Zambia draft is going to be hard to answer for the Machamps here with that Landorus and the Lapras and the Metagross. But I think with how the Machamps played last week and with the long time it's been since we've seen Zambia play with no warm-up game here for week 1, I think Machamps are going to be able to take at least 1 game off of them.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, in agreement with what you're saying, Ali. There is the draft day difference for Zambia, but we have not seen how they're going to pilot this team, so a lot of questions there. I do think the strength of the draft is enough to pick up the series here. Memphis obviously has proven us wrong in being able to pull off a win with the draft that they do have, and they can always make free agency moves. But I do think Zambia does come back, bounce back, pick up a win, 2-1. Chris, though, you have an entirely different opinion. Walk us through it.
Yeah, I think this series is going to be really close. As you guys are saying, I think Zambia does have a draft edge here. I think those top 3 are very big. But we saw some things from Memphis that gave me a little bit of hope for them going forward. They made some big plays. They made some intelligent plays that we hadn't seen them do in the previous season. And overall, I think Memphis has a very complex and chaotic draft. And I think with the Zambia coach being one of our less practiced players, that level of chaos and uncertainty and the lack of practice that has been obtained, especially in the big games, might lead to some big nerves and some weird button pushes and a lack of confidence. And for those reasons, I'm throwing the edge in the series to Memphis just by a hair. But
maybe we get one back, Gulley. We'll see.
You can hope. But speaking of getting one back, I don't need to. I won my game in week 1, but I do play Charlotte in the upcoming games. And Ali and I are in agreement that that's Toronto favored 2-1. But Caleb, you've got a 2-0. What's that about?
I do have a 2-0, and a lot of this is really, straightforward and fairly simple. Toronto has one of the absolute best and scariest drafts. Recently played it, very difficult to play against just because if you make one mistake, it feels like you lose all momentum and you lose a ton of momentum in the series. So also, Chris, as Coach John Triggers, you're also a very good Pokemon player. So I think the difference in draft and the difference in player here, this is one of our oldest, newest teams that we brought in, if that makes any sense at all. But 2-0 in favor of Toronto, purely off of draft and just the flexibility of how this team can be piloted.
Ali, your thoughts on the match?
Yeah, so I mean the draft difference is pretty apparent here, but not just the draft. I think Toronto has so much more experience and just being able to pilot the team. I think they do have the edge here, but I think with the improvement we've seen from Charlotte, they're learning how to pilot their team, and I think they'll be able to take, again, at least one game off.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar mindset. I think they've got a lot of tools to deal with some of the things that my draft does struggle with. I do have some insider information on the match. I know what Toronto's bringing, so I do have a slightly unfair advantage here. But I think Charlotte has a lot of tools that they can use to pick up game 1, especially if they bring something a little more surprising or unorthodox. Might pick up a game 1 win, but I feel pretty confident with all the tools that I've got. I feel pretty consistent with a lot of the tools that I have, and for that reason I think I have the edge, and so I gave myself the 2-1. And speaking of giving ourselves 2-1, Ali's in agreement with both of us that his series against Chapel Hill is going to go 2-1. And I guess I'll bite first here. I think Chapel Hill has a lot of really good top-end pieces that are incredibly problematic for the Nashville draft. In particular, that Regieleki, that Urshifu, and that Togekiss, all big problems. And with Chapel Hill coming into their first game, I kind of expect them to lean into that top half pretty heavily, but I think Nashville is a more practiced and consistent player. And in particular, in the team building phase, I trust their coach to do some good research and come up with some creative answers that perhaps Chapel Hill will not expect, being new to the league, not having a whole lot of doubles experience. So I give the edge to Nashville. I would love to see an upset here. Nothing against you, Ali. I want the new team to actually get a good game in and surprise us all and be really strong. But Caleb, your thoughts?
Yeah, I do think they get a good game in. I just don't think it's the whole series. The main thing here is we don't know a lot about Chapel Hill. We don't know a lot about Chapel Hill just because we haven't seen them play. So I'm not sure how they're going to pilot the team. Like I said, we do know what Nashville is about. We do know that they're a strong team in and out every season. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. We know what Nashville can do. We don't know what Chapel Hill can do. So because of that, 2-1 in favor of Nashville.
Yep. And Ali, your prediction?
Yeah, so again, I've given myself the edge here. I think it's going to be a close series, especially going through trying to team build for this series, just because there's so many issues on the Chapel Hill roster that I have to try to deal with. And I think it comes down to a bit of a difference in experience and piloting the bottom half of the draft, because that's what makes our draft league the draft league. Being able to use those lower tier Pokemon, which I don't see a lot of threat coming out of Chapel Hill from the lower tiers, but again, we didn't see them in week 1 and we've never seen them before, so we have no idea what they're going to do with them. So I think just the little like surprise aspect will lead it to a 2-1.
Fair enough. Now looking at our last game of the week, we do have the Jersey City Jirachi versus the West Texas Wingulls. Both of you have this pinned as an 0-2. I've got this pinned as a 1-2 in favor of the West Texas Wingulls. Either one of you want to bite first on explaining that 2-0?
I'm playing the game, so I guess I will. I may go 0-7 this season, but by golly, I'm going to pick myself to win everyone, because that just feels silly not to. But all jokes aside, it's my old pal from the Sinnoh division, now in the Hoenn division. But I like my game plan going forward. And plus, when you play Alex, you want to close out the series as fast as possible. So if we do win game 1, we're for sure going to just try to slam the door game 2 and get out of that series before any kind of shenanigans with statuses and confusion can happen. The quicker you're out of the series, the better. And that's the game plan. And hopefully we can deliver on the 2-0 that we're calling for ourselves.
Fair enough, Ali.
Yeah, so I think historically this matchup has been rather one-sided, but well, it becomes pretty apparent looking at the drafts here. But I believe in Jersey's ability to play it out and give West Texas a run for their money. But if we just look at draft and experience, I do think it's going to be a sweep coming from West Texas.
Yeah. It seems like I've got a little more faith in Jersey City here to just pull off some of those wild shenanigans. Lots of fighting types means lots of weird punch coverage and things like that. Maybe he can catch us off guard, but one thing that's really good against a lot of fighting types is a Tapu Fini. One thing that's really good against a Tapu Fini is a Rillaboom, and something that's really good to have against a Rillaboom is a G-Max Charizard. So all things considered, I think West Texas has a pretty significant draft edge here, but I've got some faith in Jersey City to just pull off some shenanigans, catch West Texas off guard, possibly a little bit early, sort of like they did against Nashville, where game 1 just got a little bit tricky, got away from Nashville, but they were able to stabilize, bring it back, and pick up the win. I could see something similar happening here. I wouldn't be surprised to see it be a 2-0, but I do have some faith in the one win for Jersey City coming out. But gentlemen, we've been at this long enough. We've got our predictions in, so everybody at home, thank you for watching. As always, if you'd like to catch more of our stuff throughout the week, feel free to follow us on any of the following Twitch accounts. You can find us all there. If you're watching us on Twitch, not on YouTube, feel free to follow us, give us a like, subscribe over there. But gentlemen, any closing thoughts before we say goodbye?
We're in store for a fun week 2, especially after how week 1 shook up. So excited to see what happens going forward.
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of new roster moves that have been made that will continue to be made going into this week, and we'll be able to cover that next week. So a lot of new surprises will make for an interesting week.
Yep. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the next one. Next Monday, you can catch us doing this video again. But until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you guys.